Philosophers talk to our times, towards an ethnography of a self-poisoning mind. A quick gallop through Spinoza's ethics. I kind of feel I can't leave ethics without galloping through Spinoza. And therefore I can't leave the topic of the antidote to the self-poisoning mind without thinking a little bit about Spinoza. And why? Because once you say ethics for me, I don't want to stay with the Stoics, with that image of how you map out a life and think time forwards and backwards, wonderful as it is. For Spinoza is the master at decentering your own humanity. You see, unlike Kant puts us and everything we can be downstream of a transcendental self. We live then downstream of reason, downstream of time, and must make the best of it. Spinoza doesn't do that. Obviously, perhaps. But he does do that, sort of. You see, his point that we live downstream from is a body that actually exists. That is the essence of a man. And beyond that, there are all the individuals that come together for a while to build that thing that becomes your body. And what was more, consciousness exists as it understands a mind that actually exists. You are therefore downstream, both from something that is, for want of a better word, normally understood as spiritual, your mind, although that is in Spinoza merely a part of the attribute of thought, but also something that is fundamentally material, that anchors you, that gives the sense that you are one thing, and the sense that you can feel at the same moment, so that you contain every idea of your perceptions. I'm not going to go too much into the parallelism there. I've done it elsewhere. It is enormously complicated. And Spinoza works it out at a very fine texture. But the point about all of that is that he challenges you then to understand what it is. Not to be just you, yourself, a simple identity, but rather to understand that identity as actually caught up with a body that is guaranteeing its unity and that echoes other bodies beyond yourself, so that your humanity is tied with the essence of wider humanity, with what it is to be a human. Your feelings, yes, they're yours, but they're caught up in the world that actually exists. And for Spinoza then, to think ethically is to depersonalize your own depersonalize your feelings and to understand them in terms of a wider context, and not merely as just what you are, what you demand to be. The core of ethics is understanding then not yourself as some sort of spirit or soul, as consciousness would want to fold you, as consciousness would demand, I am, but rather to demand, see that am as it is caught up in a wider shifts of power. It has within ethics several places to begin, but probably the roots of it are found in two places, I would think, in book 3. Ethics has 5 books. This isn't really an introduction to Spinoza, but I probably need to say that. And this is the books that are usually translated in as of passion. I think that's what Curly translates them as. The emotions. And Spinoza says there are 2 points that emotions make you step beyond yourself, make you understand yourself as merely downstream from your feelings. Oh, I should have said this before I start. I've got a bit disorganised. I think it's the eclipse. The point about it is, for Spinoza, is not only are you downstream of your perceptions as they tumble into the body and make the body already change, and so that you who exist as you express that body's actual existence are born as in the change that the body is, so that perceptions are a self-evident thing, a self-evident truth for you, as true as your body, because they are that body that is changing. And Spinoza has a lot of very subtle things to think about the difference between what your body, the perception of your body, and the perception of the wider world, how they are one and the same, and how they can be made distinct. But more than that, time is very often vectorial in Spinoza. Like Leibniz, he has an emotive theory of time. He's not, like Leibniz, absolutely committed to it. Leibniz is totally committed to it. It is impossible to understand how time passes for Leibniz without micro-desire and without micro-feelings of joy and happiness, micro-perceptions. They are the very engine of time for Leibniz. For Spinoza, time would pass in the sense that you would simply exist. But it doesn't. It doesn't really work that way. Because almost everything that impacts on the body increases what it can do or decreases what it can do. That is, increases its presence in God or loses sight of what that presence could be under God. And the point about that is that you are born then in a mind that is already changing what it is, changing what it can be. And remember, within Spinoza, essence and power run together. So that to increase the numbers of things that you can do, to increase your power, which is to increase how your essence expresses itself. It is to be caught up in the middle of so much more than you once were. And so, you are existing in a mind that is constantly shifting its nature, shifting exactly what it can do. There's no deep grounding beyond your actual existence. What you are becomes a question mark. And not a question mark that can just simply be asked within a linear temporality. Presence before death. Because death has no meaning in Spinoza. It comes from outside. It's like a spider poison that possesses the soul and destroys you. It has no place. This is more a challenge to understand how you could be, how your body could fold differently. For your body is merely origami. It could always be folded other ways. It's always folding itself other ways. And so you don't need to anchor your feelings in you and your hurt chords and your hurt identity. You're rather free to let your feelings be products of nature, forces of nature like storms, and yet unlike storms. For those storms are what you are within. They are that in which you spin and weave anything that akin to a soul. From which, I've got there in the end, two things follow. First of all, Spinoza would say in Book 3, there is a moment where you must understand your emotions really are not yours. A lot of the feelings I have never really originated just in me, but rather they originated in my understanding of others to be like me. This is the entire mystery of sympathy. Great griefs or great sorrows are contagious. They catch up populations as I feel your sorrow. Humans broadcast their emotions. Different humans, it must be said, to different amounts. Although Spinoza doesn't say that, he would certainly agree with it. And humans are caught up by their feelings for others, in others. And so you learn that emotion is not something that you yourself simply own as yourself. It is rather something to be shared, to be reflected on, to be understood in terms of a wider creation that automatically decenters it from any simple set of identities. More than that, it opens you up into worlds of compassion, worlds of understanding, worlds of challenging yourself in your here and now to think about others, to allow for others. It automatically then makes you moral, but really ethical, I would think this was, in a way of sourcing through this emotion, trying to understand who they are and what they are. Oh, Spinoza is very aware that an awful lot of the time, if we feel pain through another, we'll hate the other that makes us feel pain. Pity and loathing are very, very close in the mind. And you lose sight of the nastiness that you also are the moment that you forget that. Victim blaming is just natural humanity in the end. But it doesn't mean it's right, and doesn't mean that you have to do it, and doesn't mean if you think back on the emotion that was where it led in the first place. More than that, Spinoza will say. In fact, there's going to be 2 points in Book 3 and 1 point in Book 4. More than that, If you think about your emotions for a moment, you will immediately understand how joy is different from pain. They're not even vaguely linked. They're not opposites. Although sometimes he will present them as they are, because in the conscious mind would like to think they were, because it gives it some sort of control. But joy is always leading to greater power. And joy is always the result of some way you have taken up some aspect of the world and have been caught up within it and increased what you are. Joy is the way we share in creation and become richer through that sharing. Pain is the way we leave creation, turn our back on it, lose sight of ourselves in our own suffering. All notions of singular identity, of my own existence, are rooted in pain for Spinoza. All notions of joy open up to a community, a sharing, an ability to share. Joy then opens up on a power that I would have others have as I have it. And this for him then creates this profound asymmetry. The man of reason meditates upon joy, and not joy that is only his, but the joy that can be shared, both for fellow humanity, but also in the context of wider nature. And this leads to the middle of the fourth part of ethics, where Spinoza says the wise man then learns about himself by meditating upon his emotions, as if they were forces of nature, inside of which he was. And he understands, or she understands, how those emotions are not simple things, but rather might contain many elements. Some elements directly combine with the world, hook you up inside it, allow you to dance off on a common notion, while others condemn you to misery. Let me give you an example. In exile in France, my mind often goes back to those days in England. And you can go back to them in many ways. You could go back to them as some sort of Tolkien elf, wallowing in your own memory, lost in the that once was. That was when I was young and full of joy. And lose yourself, drown yourself in nostalgia. But as epilepsy can sentence me to a life of nostalgia if I'm not careful, I avoid that one. Far better it is to meditate upon them as they gave you joy at the time, and to understand how that joy echoes into your lives here and now, so that you can learn through it and change what you are in this far exile. Opening it up to different possibilities, seeing how you might be able to do the same thing, transliterate how you felt so powerful now into a current context of age and exile. It's a complicated move, but it's eminently possible. I do it every day. And what it does is it changes memory into something that exists in the stagnant past, something to be regretted, and turns it into a vibrant living force that allows you to change how you are, how you understand you could be in that part of life that you have left. And it is an ethical move, not the ethics of tracing out, as a Stoic might, all the pathways of what you could be, but rather finding the little covert paths, the backwaters of time, that allow you to hook up two very different times and understand how they explode to create endless possibility, eternal potentiality, Spinoza might say. And so what ethics does in the hands of Spinoza is to decenter the mind onto a body that actually exists, and from there onto a wider nature, whether it is the nature of humanity or nature as a whole. It gives you a way then to really create, as it were, a miracle. Ordinary miracles that defy the simple world of conscious identity. Allow it to refold how it could be. Oh, it will always exist. Little empirical selves are perfectly acceptable in their own little habits, as long as they don't claim sovereignty. Rather, what they have to understand themselves as the mere surfer on a wave that you could call unconscious if you must. But really, for Spinoza, it is just your awareness of the wider world, your sharing of that wider world. The fact that your consciousness was never that big because it was always far down on the process, but it was never that small either, because by the laws of parallelism, it shared within the process of which it was a cresting wave. And there is nothing essentially different between the conscious and unconscious elements of you. It's merely a question of what you've pulled out and what you've pushed in. And so, to understand ethics is to understand not yourself as a here and now, not even yourself as a life that you could lead, but as an opening up, a point upon the universe that reflects, refracts, takes it up, changes it, allows you to change through it, and to become always better than you once were.